playlist, by the way. I can't podcast it, but I'll be posting the playlists. And we will have our own page at WMMS.com. You'll be able to go into the on-air section and see it there. Now, this guy, Dr. Ryan Berglund, is back in the friendly confines. How are you?
Hey, good.
I haven't seen you since I had my vasectomy under your steady hand. Well, what I can only assume is your steady hand. I got snipped on Veterans Day, appropriately enough, right? And do you normally have 2 attending nurses for a procedure like that?
You know,
I had 2 that day.
There's a pro and then there's a trainee.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay,
yes.
I thought maybe I was getting special treatment or something. There were 2 girls in there. And, of course, I was a little nervous, so I'm, like, making jokes, not about the procedure. I'm just kind of trying to be a little jovial or whatever, because I figured they've probably heard all of the comments, and it's got to be awful, and, and they couldn't have been nicer trying to put me at ease. But by all accounts, everything went fine. It was right, because
went back and
when Ryan and I talked about having this procedure, I said, "Hey, I'm finally going to get snipped," and he goes, "Okay." He goes, "I have to let you know, as I'm sure you would tell anyone. There's a slight chance this might happen. There's a slight chance this might happen, and it's a very, very small chance, but you have to know about whatever, because you hear these stories of people. They're like, oh, I got a basketball down there now. And so there was a part of my brain I was like, boy, I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope that doesn't happen. And it couldn't have been simpler.
I was thinking the same thing.
I know. Well,
you know how awkward it would be for me if
that was the one that goes wrong.
That has a problem.
Yeah, but again, I assume those aren't things that have anything to do with the procedure. It's probably just how a person reacts to it, or a little blood vessel opens up and you're going to swell up like a basketball. Now, here's the question I have. I had I had been texting Dr. Berglund along the way a couple of weeks back, I guess beginning of February, actually, more than a couple of weeks. I had to go in and give him my post-op batch or whatever, make sure no swimmers left, and everything was 5 by 5 as it's supposed to be. But my question, I guess, is you hear all these people go, well, it can grow back. And I wonder if is that more than a small chance that can happen?
It's 1 in 2,000.
1 in 2,000.
And I can tell you I just had my first one.
Really?
It does happen. It does happen.
So this is a person where you did their procedure, or they, okay, and how much time between them getting it done and them going, hey, by the way, I have a new kid?
About 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
And they found out because they knocked somebody up, I assume.
I don't remember all the details, but for some reason, we tested them again, and they were producing some sperm. So you have to go in and take more of the tube out.
Because I would think, boy, that's only something you're going to find out when you get somebody pregnant.
The interesting thing is that before we had genetic testing, there are cases of, let's say, lawsuits against urologists for failed vasectomies where later on when we had genetic testing, they found out that the paternity was otherwise.
Oh, really?
So somebody was stepping out.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, Dr. Berglund has not been here since September. It has been a minute since he's a busy guy, and we are busy too. And it is, Bill and I are in here doing vasectomies half the time. So, we have competing interests, and that's fine. But
I just take the top of the lid off of a tuna can, and I get to slicing.
Every so often, we'll get Dr. Berglund in here for a segment that we call Is It Red?
Is it red? Does it itch? Does it hurt like a bitch? Is it red? Is it red? Is it red?
So, guys, this is an opportunity for you or the ladies who love you to have a question answered by Dr. Berglund. He's a surgical urologist over there at the Cleveland Clinic. And you can call us if you have a question. You don't even have to give us your name if you don't want to. You can give a fake name. We don't care. It's 216-578-1007 or 800-348-1007. You can text to 35192. If you want to email me, you can. It's just alan@alancoxshow.com. Hey, Johnson. All right. Hello, Johnson.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can. What's up?
Well, it's a long story. I try to keep it short. Got psoriasis down there. Been to a lot of doctors. I actually called in once a long time ago before I knew it was psoriasis. Have tried lots of creams. Nothing works. You can imagine it's pretty embarrassing,
Yeah.
Used to be married, not anymore. So try to get back out there, but it's hard to do with that. Tried hydrocortisone for a real long time. It worked for a little bit. Now it's worse because it thins out your skin. So not only is the psoriasis worse, but elasticity of the skin's a bit of an issue. Cuts real easy. Kind of sucks, you know. Don't know what else to do. You know, I can't put stronger cream down there, according to the doctors that I've seen. I don't know what else to do, where else to turn.
Is there any chance that your ex-wife put a Santeria hex on you?
Maybe.
All right.
Could be.
Well, that's all I got, Doc. You tell him.
First of all, do you have really severe psoriasis? I mean, systemic, arthritis, et cetera?
No, it's not that bad. Actually, I've got 2 patches, one on my leg and one on my Johnson.
One of the problems is that partners are going to think that it's an STD, and it's not.
Right.
It's a skin condition. It's a non-transmissible skin condition.
I hope you're recording this so you can play it back for every one of your prospective sexual partners.
There you go.
Yeah, probably they saw it that way, you know.
Don't feel bad, Johnson. I have psoriasis too, and I've had patches close to my Johnson, and I've asked. His name's Johnson, and talk about it, Johnson. But I've gotten steroid cream. Like I've gotten the steroid cream, and I've gotten the shot in my butt, like the steroid shot. Did that help at all? Did you get those?
I got the steroid shot on the spot on my leg, which it helped for a little bit, but they won't do the shot there.
The problem is exactly what you alluded to. It just can't. It weakens the skin there. You know, it's going to weaken those tissues, and so it's a challenging problem. There are some systemic treatments though, and they have not explored those. I'm not as familiar. This is more of a dermatologic condition than a urologic one. But
have you seen a dermatologist, Johnson?
Well, yeah, actually. Yeah. So when this first started out, they thought it was an STD. And they gave me this cream called Altera, which gets rid of warts, also is used for skin cancer. It turned out that's not what it was, and that's what caused me to have a psoriasis flare-up. What started as a very, very small, minuscule dot turned into like 1,000 times worse.
Oh,
I've seen
no.
dermatologists actually
man.
I ended up with chemical burns first, which activated the psoriasis, and yeah.
You should activate a lawyer, bro.
I was gonna say, I haven't had it that bad.
Chemical burns, Jesus.
Yeah, not good.
So
I've
it's
had a lot of bad luck, and I'm very, very hesitant to do anything at this point. At one point, I was advised, use hydrocortisone, you're good, use it all the time. And now the skin's super thin, and it cracks and breaks and bleeds.
Oh,
and it's
no.
just worse. Everything I do makes it worse.
Are you a young man?
I'm 32.
Yeah, young man. Oh, boy. All right. I mean, listen, as a guy only in his mid-20s, I am not quite sure what I can tell you, but...
you got a real Harvey Dent penis there. Two-face.
So this is a dermatological question. Yeah. Well,
it's red, so I mean,
it is red, and that's the name of the boy.
There are a number of conditions, though, that look like an STD, and that's a really difficult conversation. And, we do run into that with patients where they have something going on that is not a transmissible disease, but it's hard to get rid of.
And try convincing someone that it's not. Oh, baby, it's fine. Oh, God, come on.
Some guys have really bad pearly penile papules. We've talked about these before. They're benign, but they look like an STD.
They don't look benign.
Yeah.
Alan, please ask Dr. Berglund, I have blood in my semen. Is that okay?
It's interesting. Blood from a lot of different things is not good. Urine, stool, you cough up blood. Interestingly, from the blood in the semen is from the prostate, and it usually is benign. There are exceptions to that. If it's a persistent thing, there are ways you can treat it. But interestingly, that usually is a benign condition.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can sleep with vampires. They'll appreciate it.
That's a little life hack from Bill Squire to you. Alan, Dr. Berglund is doing my vasectomy on April 14th. Oh, look at that. The spreading like wildfire around here. Speaking of vasectomies, what are the first steps for someone considering having one done? A buddy of mine just got snipped last weekend. Saw him kind of duck walking around or whatever. For this person wants to know what are the first steps. Probably calling your office.
Usually there's a consultation.
Yeah.
You need to kind of understand what you're getting yourself into. The first thing, and this actually turns away a lot of people, people don't understand. You really need to look at it as an irreversible procedure. So I'll have guys come in and say, hey, this sounds like a great form of birth control, but what if I want kids 10 years from now? And the answer is there are other things you can do.
Well, you say that, but people have them reversed, don't they? But those are I would assume
but it's not really
very expensive.
Yeah.
It's not covered by insurance.
Okay.
They don't always work.
Yeah.
And so my advice to someone who might want to get it reversed down the road, there are other forms of birth control to use. This is a very effective form of birth control, but you should not think of it as a reversible form of birth control. Although I have a partner who reverses them, does a good job.
Wow.
So what oftentimes will happen is that somebody...
But it's not good to go into it thinking, well, I'll just have the switch flip the other way if this doesn't work, if I want to have a kid.
If I have someone ask me, and I have this happen all the time, hey, I want to bank some sperm before I get this done, if they're asking me that question, they're not ready to get a vasectomy.
Right. Yeah, okay. I mean, my middle brother's only a year younger than me, but I was home it must have been for Thanksgiving, home in Chicago to see my family, because I had my vasectomy on November the 11th. So it must have been for Thanksgiving. He could not believe that I had just had it done. He's like, you're 51. I go, I know, but I got a 7-year-old. Like, you know what I mean? He and his wife have been married forever, and my wife now is my second wife. But he's like, I got mine done. He got his done like the week after his second kid was born. And he's like, I had no idea that you were still, I go, oh, yeah, well, I've been wrapping it up for 40 years or whatever.
The other interesting one I've had a couple of times are very young guys that don't have any kids.
Right.
That are involved in a relationship, but they're just absolutely adamant that they do not want to have kids. And the difficult part of the discussion is you may change your mind down the road, and this is going to become a tricky problem, when you're 40.
Well, because don't they there are a lot of gynecologists who will not perform hysterectomies or whatever on young girls, or they won't tie their not hysterectomies, won't tie their tubes, or because I don't hear that so often with guys. I know a couple of young guys who got vasectomies. They're like, I don't want kids. I know I'm not going to want kids. My wife or whatever, she don't want them either. And so they've done them. But I wonder if there's a I'm not even sure how to put it. If there's a different reaction between people who see guys who want to get this done and girls who are like, I don't want to have kids either. Why even mess with it?
If you're an informed adult, it's hard to say no.
Right.
And so you really just need to make sure you have a good conversation with them about the implications of getting this done.
Hey, Rat.
Oh, hey, little radio buddies. I got a quick one for the doc.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt your commercials. That was me outside.
Rat was outside our window here. He was so excited about Dr. Berglund. He just had to come up and say hi. I know. Go ahead, Rat.
Okay, Doc. So I had not been sexually active for probably 2 or 3 years. In November, I had SEX, and it was fantastic. And then
you just call him the brag, man?
2 months ago. What's that?
Are you just calling the brag?
No. So about 2 months ago, I developed a rash on my neck, and it was red. And then 2 days later, I started getting a creamy, yellowish secretion coming out of my pee-pee. And I panicked, and I went to the urgent care. And now remember, I'd been celibate for 2-3 years. I had blood work done. I'm pretty sure I had no STDs. The girl that I had been with, I told her about my past, so she immediately went to get checked out, and she was fine. So I go to the urgent care. They do, we're going to take urine. We're not going to do blood. Okay, so it came out that I had really cloudy urine. They looked at whatever was dripping. They looked at the rash and gave me hydrocortisone, right?
Right.
And then they say, I called for results. They said, you're clear on whatever STDs come from urine, which are the small ones, not the major ones. So then they go, you need to go to the Cleveland Clinic to get blood work done. Get the blood work done, 8:30 in the morning. Then I got to go see the doctor thinking they're going to give me something for this. I still think it's an STD. I don't know. Every time I grab it and milk it, some stuff comes out, right?
I'm going to pass out.
It's okay.
So Rat, your question is what? Your question is what's happening?
My question is, they said it wasn't a UTI, no herpes, no STDs, no urinary tract, no yeast infection, and said, after $2,000, they said it'll probably go away. And 15 days later, it went away.
Yeah.
So they were right.
So what could it have? They were right. What could it have been?
Now listen.
That's a hard thing to diagnose.
The tests are very sensitive, particularly the urine test. It's now, DNA test of the urine, so it's going to pick up on the two big ones, gonorrhea and chlamydia. those are the two that would cause the kind of symptoms that he had. So you did not have gonorrhea and chlamydia. And by the way, that's good news.
I was going to say 2 bullets ducked with that.
That's good news. Your symptoms sounded a lot like they could have been either of them, and we're having a big problem right now with resistant gonorrhea. It's a big problem.
That's super gonorrhea.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so actually you should be very happy that you don't have that. There are various reasons that you can get urethritis, where you can get irritation of the urethra. And it may have just been that, I don't know what was going on, rough sex, et cetera. Not rough, vigorous sex.
Vigorous sex.
That's what I mean
after a 2-year drought, he was ready to get back in.
But it's actually good news that you didn't have an infection. So those tests are very sensitive, and the fact that it went away, probably just some irritation, inflammation, but not infection. So that's good news.
Somebody texted, my girl and I have been trying to have kids for a year. I had my swimmers tested, and it came back with a morphology issue. What is that?
So the only reason a morphology issue would be a problem is if they are actually infertile. So if they've been trying to achieve a pregnancy for a year and there has been no successful pregnancy, you do a semen analysis, and you actually look at the way that the sperm are shaped. And sometimes there can be disorders of the way that the sperm's formed, or there can be
That's what the morphology refers to. Okay.
And so it may be that the sperm are not effective at fertilizing the egg. And so if you're infertile and you have a morphology problem, you might need to use an assisted method.
So they have to be if it's a irregular or deformed shape, that's going to prohibit the motility of it, or the
motility, or the ability to penetrate the ovum.
Dr. Ryan Berglund is here. We don't get to see him often, but when we do, it's very useful for you if you got some stuff going on down there. I've got a couple people on hold with questions for him for Is It Red? If you want to join them, if you have a question, 216-578-1007 or 800-348